From solutions to a suspected serial killer, a KXAN analysis of autopsy reports and law enforcement records reveals at least 30 drowning victims, many intoxicated, over the past decade in Austin's downtown waterway, Lady Bird Lake. In a special on-location edition of Inside the Investigation, our team shares updates to its Beneath the Surface project and where the reporting could go next. Welcome to a special edition of Inside the Investigation. Arzo and I are here at Lady Bird Lake today talking about our team's latest project, Beneath the Surface. Specifically, we wanted to dive into some of the things we couldn't quite fit into the stories and some of the challenges that we faced as well. Speaking of challenges, let's talk about the data. Finding data to see what was tracked as far as drownings here in Lady Bird Lake was pretty difficult. Our team actually had to go to the medical examiner's office here in Travis County, the morgue, and piece together our own database, autopsy by autopsy, because we found out that the city of Austin and Travis County don't really track accidental drownings the way that we needed to understand the scope of the problem happening here in Lady Bird Lake. So we looked at everything from toxicology to location of the bodies to put together that and find that there were 30 accidental drownings here in Lady Bird Lake over the last decade. But we also wanted to compare Austin to other communities that had around 1 million population with entertainment districts and waterways in their downtown. We did find a couple that were comparable as far as data, but many of the cities we looked at, it was too tough to find that data, almost impossible, because there's no uniform way that cities track accidental drownings like that. Some didn't track locations at all, so it was impossible to know if it was happening in their downtown rivers. Some of them didn't look at the time frame the same way we were, and also saving the data for that entire decade that we wanted to look at. But of the few that we were able to compare to Austin, it looks like Austin's numbers were much higher than those other communities.
Right, and Josh, we wanted to look at what are people in communities doing to prevent these drownings. We looked at solutions happening all across the country. You traveled to La Crosse, Wisconsin, and really highlighted Operation River Watch, but we wanted to dig deeper. So we started looking at other communities. For instance, Bakersfield, California, right at the mouth of the river, there is a huge sign that's got the death toll on it. And it's really so stark that it makes you stop. But the city says they had to do something like that to get people's attention. You know, Columbus, Georgia, they teamed up, the city and fire and EMS teamed up with Georgia Tech to look at an AI solution that really could possibly pinpoint exactly where someone is in their river so that they could respond quicker. And then even in our own backyard, New Braunfels, you know, spring and summer, big months for tubing. So they have put up stations where you can go and get a life vest for free as long as you return it. That way you're safe when you decide to go in the rivers. We mentioned Operation River Watch, which you spent a lot of time really looking at how it works. And it is volunteer run, student run in La Crosse, where they're really trying to figure out ways to keep people from going into the river. Much like in our area, they had a lot of people going from the Bar District over to the river. So this operation really focuses and has kept thousands of people from going into the river. You saw this firsthand, and you brought the solution back to Austin.
Exactly. When we got back from Wisconsin, we contacted the UT student government leaders and also Councilman Zoe Caudry, who is on the Austin City Council, and his district is representing here Lady Bird Lake, the Rainy Street Entertainment District, and also the University of Texas. We sat down with them in a meeting and showed them some of the footage from our trip to Wisconsin to show them how Operation River Watch really worked. We answered their questions. We shared our contacts with them from people that were the volunteers and the organizers in La Crosse to give them a way to reach out to ask even more detailed questions. From what we understand in recent weeks, they're still exploring that. Councilman Caudry has been clear that he wants any type of initiative like that to be student run, because they would be the ones to be volunteering. So I think that, you know, it's something that we also know that La Crosse, that the colleges there had some challenges getting regular volunteers, because with college students, you know, even though they're very willing, there's a lot of turnover also because they go semester by semester, people leave, people graduate. So that will be a challenge here in Austin also if they decide to keep that up. But what we understand is the councilman and the University of Texas students student leaders are still looking into this.
And Councilmember Kadri also mentioned to our team that he'll be going to the city and talking about adding more lighting and cameras. We know that in previous initiatives back in 2023, there was just one camera added, but also there was some lighting that was included.
Yeah, some low-level lighting that we've seen here when we've been visiting the lake at dark to get some of the footage that we were getting for our stories. The one camera you mentioned, we did check into that. It was surprising to us that there was just one camera added, considering all the talk that happened back in 2023 among the city council. We learned, because we requested footage from that camera to see what is it really capturing, that the camera has not been working. We detailed this in one of our stories, but the city has promised that they are working to get it hardwired. The problem that we documented was that it was a solar panel powered camera, and that was really the problem in capturing all the footage, because it couldn't stay powered. And so they're working to get it hardwired. They had hoped to have that done by the end of January, but the end of January came and went. It still wasn't working. So we're hoping to see something a little later this spring. You mentioned Councilman Kadri may be wanting to work with the city to explore getting more cameras and more lighting out here as well. And we know that one of the challenges for that is the location here. Getting, electricity infrastructure out here to this part of the lake can be a little challenging and very costly. A lot of the past initiatives were paid for with bond money. And so if that is something they're going to explore, they have to set that in the potential bond package that would be coming up later this year or possibly in 2028.
And Josh, these safety measures, this is something that victims' families have begged for years. And in fact, you spent a lot of time with Mitchell Gutierrez. We got to know him really well throughout this project. His brother Martin drowned in 2018. Mitchell has always said that he believes that Martin was drugged and killed, and he will not rest until he finds out what exactly happened to his brother. And anytime we've seen a drowning happen, these conspiracy theories come up where there's a possible serial killer out there. Now, police have said there's not, and they've looked at all leads. But in Martin's case, you've looked at the police report, you've talked to Mitchell extensively. What other angles were pursued?
Yeah, if you look in the police report, and then I did follow up with Mitchell to ask some more questions about this, he was hearing a lot of tips that there could have been more than one person that was this potential serial killer, someone who killed his brother. From some of the tips he was hearing from people in the community, it could have been people that were involved in a specific church, maybe even a cult. Police did look into those tips. There wasn't any validity to it. It was just a story. And you do have stories like that pop up from time to time when there is, kind of an exciting tale like a serial killer that's in your community. One of the other unfortunate things that we found in the police report was that during the time that Martin was still missing, before they found his body here in the lake, Mitchell was receiving texts and calls from someone that was claiming they had Martin and that they wanted money to bring him back. Very sad situation. They, told Mitchell, do not contact police about this. So he was very torn about what to do. He wanted to make sure that he got his brother back and safe and sound. When he was finally ready to do something about it, days had gone by and they were going to meet with police. And in that meeting that day, that was when they found out that there was a body that had been found here that was likely his brother. When they came out here, that was what had happened. So someone had been scamming him, trying to get money from him. There's a separate police report that's attached to the missing persons case that shows that Martin's bank account was actually drained during this time, and they never found out who did that as well. So it's a very sad situation. Unfortunately, it happens to a lot of victims' families during tragedies like this, where scammers will try to take advantage.
And we've heard firsthand what families really have gone through this devastating process. And, one of our goals was that we wanted to build a memorial page on KXAN.com to remember the 30 victims that we've tracked. And, we contacted funeral homes, families, found a number of the families, and they say that it's still just really hard because they don't have closure. So for them to talk about it just was not possible. But many of the the families did share a photo with us and some detail about the victims so that they are remembered in a different way other than the way that they passed away. And we continue to add to this page. So if you know a person on this memorial page, if you would want to share a photo, something about their life so that we can remember them in a different way, please go ahead and share it with us.
Yeah, and we'll have that on KXAN.com. And of course, we will continue following up with all of these stories and potential solutions as they play out here in Austin. Thank you, Arzo. You can watch all new episodes of Inside the Investigation on the KXAN Plus Smart TV app every Friday. You can also listen to an audio version on KXAN's investigative podcast with new episodes every Saturday morning wherever you get podcasts.